Alola Pokemon trainers, this is GatorX, and recently in the Nintendo Direct Mini, it was announced that Pokken Tournament DX would be receiving 2 new fighters as DLC later this year, Aegislash and Blastoise. And so that got me thinking, could it be possible for even more Pokemon to come into the game later on through DLC? And so I compiled a quick list of 5 Pokemon I would like to see in Pokken Tournament. So let's start it off with number 5, Venusaur. Now, the reason I have Venusaur listed here is because Blastoise was one of the Pokemon announced, and Charizard is already a playable character, so that's 2 out of the 3 Kanto starters. Now, Venusaur isn't always the favorite of the trio, but I still think it would be cool to complete it by including him. Now, even though Venusaur is a fat, oddly shaped Pokemon, I think it could still work. I mean, we have a Chandelier, a Sword and Shield, and a dog as playable characters. Why not a big quadruped plant dinosaur? I mean, Ivysaur was even a playable character in Smash Bros. Brawl. So just scale that up, maybe make it a little slower and hit harder, and put it into Pokken. I think it could possibly work. But it is probably the least likely out of the Pokemon I've thought up, so it's fine here at number 5. Number 4, Dragonite. Now, Dragonite actually is already in Pokken Tournament, but as a support Pokemon. Although originally Croagunk was a support Pokemon before coming to the arcade version and later DX. So it could be possible for Dragonite to become a fighter as well. And even though it is large, it is somewhat bipedal, so it could fit in a fighting game a little better than Venusaur. Even though it's not necessarily a counterpart to Charizard, some people tend to think of it as such. So it could be cool to include Dragonite to have it alongside Charizard and still be a cool representation of Generation 1. Number 3. Hitmontop. Now, when I was looking at the roster of Pokken, I figured that we could use some more Generation 2 Pokemon. And as much as I'd like to just put Feraligatr on this list, I thought that was a little less likely. And so I figured, why not one of the other cool Pokemon of Generation 2? And on top of that, have it be some actual representation for the Hitmon line. It was surprising that Hitmonlee and Chan weren't included in Pokken, but Hitmontop sort of being a combination or middle ground between the two could work. I also think it'd be cool to watch it fight while spinning around in the stages. Number 2, Incineroar. Decidueye was one of the new Pokemon introduced for DX, since it's a very popular Pokemon of Generation 7, but it almost seems like a bit of a missed opportunity to not include Incineroar alongside it. Incineroar is another Pokemon inspired by fighting. Even though it's not a fighting type, it still has a connection to fighting in terms of lore and design. And so it seemed like a perfect candidate as a Generation 7 Pokemon introduced for the game. But it wasn't. I think it could easily be introduced as a counterpart to Decidueye, and bring some different types of fighting styles. Number 1, Infernape. And yes, the number 1 spot is another fire type starter, but hear me out, Infernape again is a fan favorite Pokemon. And even though I disapprove of talking about Sinnoh remakes so early, I think Infernape might be a good way to start introducing the idea of it. Later down the line, much later. And again, it could potentially fit in alongside Empoleon, who's already in the game. And I do know a lot of these spots are kind of based on having a Pokemon to go alongside another starter that's already in the game. But ever since Blastoise was announced, it just made a lot of the other starter Pokemon start to feel a little lonely. And plus, in terms of fighting style, I think Infernape would be really cool to see. Anyway, that's it for this quick top 5 list, but let me know what you think. Would you like to see these Pokemon in Pokken Tournament, or do you have your own ideas? Leave a comment down below and we'll continue the discussion down there. Also, I just want to remind you to check out last week's video, which was a huge one and is why a lot of things have sort of slowed down recently, because that was just straight up the biggest Pokemon theory I've ever done. It'll all be linked in the description, iCards, and annotations at the end. If you enjoyed the content, remember to leave a like and subscribe to show your support. You can enable notifications by clicking the bell icon next to the subscribe button. This will make sure you see each new video as it comes out, and will make you a member of the Chingling Squad. Anyway, this has been GatorX. Have a nice day.